Hello, I'm Delores Dixon, Extension Agent, Home Economics in Dorchester County, with another edition of Market Basket. And today we're going to be talking about the Maryland blue crab. As you probably know, the crab is a valuable economic asset to Maryland, and it's a gastronomical asset to those of us who live here. It's one of the real pleasures of living on the eastern shore of Maryland. And a little later I'm going to be talking some about the crab, and we've had some requests for help in how to extract the meat from the crab. So we're going to be spending some time doing that. But first of all, I'd like to prepare a dish using the blue crab, because perhaps some of you had some steamed crabs and you might have some left over, or perhaps you'd just like to prepare this dish and purchase the crab already picked, especially for that purpose. The recipe we're going to be preparing today is called cheesy crab, and it can be served as an hors d'oeuvre, as a spread, or a dip. The ingredients in this particular dish are 1 8-ounce package of cream cheese, 1 tablespoon of milk, 1 cup of crab meat, 2 tablespoons of chopped onion, 1/2 teaspoon of horseradish, enough salt and pepper to taste, and a 2-ounce package of slivered almonds. This is delicious, prepared and served hot. Makes an interesting dip or spread served hot. But if you prefer, it can be served as a cold dip, because the crab meat is already cooked before you add it to this dish. We'll add the milk to soften it. Now, if you're going to serve it cold, you may need more than 1 tablespoon of milk, but we'll begin with 1 tablespoon. This also helps to soften the cream cheese. The crab itself, as all seafood, is an excellent source of complete protein, just as beef or poultry are sources of complete protein. So is the fish and shellfish, which includes our blue crab. Soften this real well. And this is a dish that if you want to make it ahead and freeze it, you can do so. Then if you're having a party or entertaining a few guests, you can take it out, let it thaw in the refrigerator, or you can just warm it up in the oven. So now we have the 8-ounce package of cream cheese and 1 tablespoon of milk. And to that I'm going to add, first of all, the horseradish, and we're going to use a 1/2 teaspoon of horseradish. And if you like it a little more zippy, you can add a little more horseradish. And 2 tablespoons of chopped onion, which I've already chopped. Then add salt and pepper to your taste. This is kind of an unusual combination. Crab is very perishable, as you know, if you've had it before or served it before, so it's really important that the crab meat be kept refrigerated, and that if you're serving it, if it's supposed to be hot, that it be kept hot. If it's a cold dish, keep it cold, and don't leave it sit out for a long period of time. It should be served within a reasonable length of time after you've put it out. Now we're ready to add the crab meat, and this is 8 ounces of crab meat already picked. And the regular crab meat, which is flaked, it doesn't contain the lump crab meat, is fine to use. Lump crab meat, we'll talk about a little bit more later, comes from the back fin area, and as the name says, lump crab meat consists of large lumps, large pieces of crab. And to me, it's a shame to mix it up in a dish like this. It should be reserved for eating in salads so you can really savor those nice large pieces of crab meat. Now we have everything in this dish now that the recipe calls for except the almonds, which go on top. We have the cream cheese, the milk, the crab meat, horseradish, onion, salt, and pepper. As you can see, it's very quick and easy to mix up. You can put this in a shallow baking dish and bake it at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. Now, if this consistency seems a little thick for you, it's really a spread consistency now. If you'd like to use it as a dip, you'd probably want it a little thinner, so just add more milk. I'm going to put this into the dish, and you might want to use a little shortening on the dish first to keep your ingredients from sticking to the baking dish while it's baking. Make your cleanup job a little easier. Then the almonds are just sprinkled on top, and these are slivered almonds. It's a 2-ounce package of slivered almonds. As I said, you set your oven at 350 degrees, bake for about 20 minutes. You want to bake it until it becomes bubbly and the almonds will turn brown. It can be served cold or it can be served hot. So we'll put this aside now. This is our cheesy crab. And you'll find this will disappear really fast when you're entertaining. Now let's look at the crab. Some people find that they have a real problem when it comes to sitting down to enjoy a crab feast, which we call them here on the Eastern Shore. And I don't claim to be an expert crab picker. Before I had moved to the Eastern Shore several years ago, we had crabs at home and we used to go crabbing. But I can tell you that I've improved a lot since I moved here as far as my skill at picking crabs. And I'm sure this is due largely to the help of my husband and mother-in-law, who have both picked many crabs. This is a crab which has been steamed. It's the blue crab. And when it's fresh from the water, it's brownish green in color with varying amounts of blue on the claws. The average size of the full-grown crab, from spine to spine, is between 5 and 7 inches. Of course, some do become larger than that when they're fully grown, but that's the average size. The females, when they're fresh from the water, have red tips on the tip of the claw. And you'll notice there are 5 pairs of legs. There are 5 on each side. The front pair of legs are larger and end in a pincher. And of course they're larger on the male than they are on the female. This is a male, and this is a female minus a few legs, which could have happened before it was caught or in the steaming process. The most obvious way, I think, to tell the male and the female is by the apron at the back. Let's see, if I turn it around this way, perhaps you can see it better. The large male, you see, has a pointed apron on the bottom. The underside of the crabs is light in color, a creamy white color. The smaller female crab has a wider apron, which remains wide all the way, almost all the way, except for a tiny point at the end. So I think you can see that, I hope you can see that obvious difference in the male and female. And they're both good to eat. If you have been lucky enough to go out and catch some crabs yourself, remember that the crabs should be live. It's very important that they be live when you cook them. When you put them into the water, you can either boil them or steam them, but it is important that they be alive when they are cooked, the same as lobster. If you're buying them already steamed, just be sure that you're buying them from a reliable firm so that you can be sure they're fresh. Now, to get into the cleaning of the crab, after it's cooked, don't leave it out a long time because, as I said, any kind of fish, including shellfish, is very perishable. Don't try to freeze crabs in the shell either. If you're going to freeze crab meat, it's better to freeze it in a dish or in crab cakes. You can freeze the crab meat after it's picked out, but it tends to get a little tough and stringy. And crab meat should only be frozen for about 3 months, approximately 3 months, in order to have the optimum flavor and texture. Okay, now to get into this crab and really get down to enjoy it, first of all, you need to spread out newspapers, or we have brown paper here, so you don't worry about messing up anything and can really savor this crustacean. And the way I begin is by removing the apron from the bottom. And with that, take the whole back shell. Now inside this back shell there is some fat, and some people like to eat this membrane and fatty material in here. That's purely up to the individual. Then you begin by the next step is to take the legs off. And some people pull them off, but I find the meat comes out a lot better if you use a crab knife and cut those legs off all the way around. And the best kind of knife to use is one which has both the blade and the handle in one piece. If it's not, you're going to eventually break your knife because it won't be sturdy enough. And it should fit very comfortably in your hand because, as you can imagine, if you haven't done it before, the shell's very hard unless it's what we call a peeler that's getting ready to molt, or unless it is a soft crab, of course, which is soft as the name implies. So we begin by cutting just inside these joints all the way around the body. Now we're going to save the claws because there is a lot of meat in the claw. And cut just inside the joint. Now, really, there's not enough meat to take your time with in these legs. To me, it's not worth the effort for what you get. Then you want to clean all the spongy material out here. On the top of the membrane on each side, you have what people around here call dead men's fingers. Actually, I think they're the lungs of the crab. You want to clean those off. Clean the mouth portions of the crab off. Cut them off. And all this material in the center cavity, the intestines and so on. Now again, there's some yellow material in here, and it varies in color from crab to crab. Some people like to eat that, and others don't like it. So it's all a matter of your personal preference. If you don't like it, just clean it out. Then, to get the meat out easier, if you will slice this body in half horizontally, you see we have a section here comprised of 2 halves. If you cut it in half horizontally, that way you're able to get the meat out of the membranes more easily. The crab body consists of a semi-transparent membrane, which is hard, and you don't want to mix that in with your crab meat. So on each side, slice that off. You're slicing through the middle. So you end up with 3 sections. This large part, and then the 2 halves we sliced off. Then you need a bowl or something in which to pick your crab. Now back where these swimming fins were connected on this part, that's where you get the lump crab meat. And you can see it's called lump because it comes out in large sections. See, here we have a large piece of white crab meat, which is excellent to use in salads. And of course you get 2 pieces of that, one on each side. It comes out in very large pieces. That's what you pay the most for. If you're buying lump crab meat, that will be the most expensive. Then just go around the crab and clean out all of the sections. And as you do that, you can feel the little pieces of cartilage and take it out. If you're going to be making crab cakes or crab imperial or any of perhaps the cheesy crab that we talked about, that I showed you how to make earlier, you certainly don't want the membrane in it. So remove that as you go. We have many really fast crab pickers in Dorchester County because there are many people who make their living picking crabs. I'm afraid I wouldn't be very good at that. I'd probably starve if I had to do it for making a living. But I can pick them fast enough to have a good meal that I enjoy and not feel that I've overworked myself getting the meat out of the crab. Then after you've cleaned this large part out, you have the 2 smaller sections that you'll want to clean. You may have caught your own crabs or perhaps at one of the local crab houses or seafood establishments. You might buy them already steamed. And you can buy seafood seasoning to spice them up just the way you like them. Now don't throw the claws away because this is a very sweet kind of meat. And we'll try to get this out in one piece. Sometimes we're successful and sometimes we're not. And on this one I'm going to try cutting right on the underside here, just a little bit to slice through the shell so that I can break it and get that out. It may work or it may not. Well, we did pretty well with that one. And you can buy these also sold as crab fingers, and they're nice for serving as a cocktail with a cocktail sauce, and makes a real nice hors d'oeuvre. And it's served just like this. Serve them on a plate surrounding cocktail dip. And you can buy all claw meat. Now to me the claw meat is really good. I think to me it's sweeter than the rest of the meat. Some people may disagree, and there's still a little bit in that section of the claw. Now it's possible to get the section of the claw closest to the body out too in one piece, but I have more difficulty doing that. And to do it you should try to break the claw near the joint. In other words, we're going to be picking the meat out of this section now, and either we'll try to crack it or break it right up near the bend joint. This bend right here, crack it right in that area. Well, it's not going to come out in one piece, but it will come out in fairly large sections. And it's easy to get to. So we'll do the other one. And as I cut the first one, I'll crack this one. Again, that's another reason for a nice strong knife. You can use one end of it for cracking. Looks good enough to eat, doesn't it? It's just a good mouthful. And this is a job that you're really going to get your hands and fingers into. So be prepared for a messy job, but it's one that has lots of rewards. As I said, you can freeze crab meat. Don't try to freeze it in the shell, but pick it out. And it's better mixed in your crab imperial or in your crab cakes than it is to freeze it in a freezer container like this. I know people who do freeze it just as it's picked, but it does tend to get a little tough and stringy on freezing and a little watery. And I much prefer it in my crab cakes already mixed than to freeze it like this. So that's basically the art of extracting the meat from the blue crab. And I hope this makes your job easier this summer and in summers to come, because you certainly don't want to miss the pleasures that come from eating our Maryland blue crab. Let me wipe my hands off here. It may have seemed strange to you that we made our crab dish first and then picked the crab, but we don't really have very complete kitchen facilities here, and so it just seemed to work out better to do it in the order in which we did. If you'd like a copy of the recipe for the cheesy crab, which we made first, and this is delicious served with crackers, I can give you that recipe by contacting the county extension office. And also we have a copy of Topics number 16, Freezing Shellfish. And this tells about freezing not only crab meat, but other types of shellfish, clams and shrimp and so on. And it's available free, so you can get the recipe and this topic number 16 by contacting the Dorchester County Extension Office. The phone number is 228-8800, or you can just stop over and see us. We're located on the second floor of the Dorchester County office building. And as I said, I hope you enjoy Maryland crabs this summer and next summer too. They are becoming more plentiful, and it's lots of fun for the family too. If you have an opportunity to go out and catch some of your own crabs, you'll enjoy them twice as much. So that's it until the next edition of Market Basket.